Hello and good day. We here at Coleman Events are here to present you with this lovely painting of this evening sunset, the swing. So we are going to go over your supplies and show you what you need to begin. We have two paint brushes. We have a flat brush and a small round brush. We have an apron, which is very important. So if you want to keep your clothing clean, we are using acrylic paint and it dries permanent on your clothing if you do not clean it up rather quickly. So you want to unfold your apron. It's very thin. And what you want to do is you want to find this section here, which has a little bit of curve in it. And what you want to do is you just want to separate those two pieces. And then you're looking for this loop to put around your neck, and then you can tie it around in the back, or if you want to bring it around the front, tie it in front. I'm going to put mine on. Okay, you have a plate here if you want to mix any of your colors. And we'll go ahead and show you the colors that we're using today. We have black, white, red, green, blue, and yellow. So we're going to be mixing up some of these colors to get this beautiful landscape sunset here. I'm going to move that off to the side and remove the plate. And there you have the painting that we're going to try to recreate here. So there's going to be a lot of shading and a lot of blending in this, but I'll show you how to do it step by step. Just so you know before we get started, so you know the process, we're going to do the entire background first and try to get the sky and the water shades on there pretty good. And then we're going to worry about the darker images, the rocks, the trees, the swing. And I think lastly, we'll probably go ahead and do that sunset, the sun. So give you a minute to look at that. Once again, I'm going to start from top to bottom. We're going to go over the sunset and we're going to try to recreate some of this water that we have going on here. There's a nice shine that's coming off, reflection that's coming off of the water. We're going to try to recreate that. And there's also some highlights from the sun here on these two rocks. And we're going to put some of the white in the water as well. So this will be fun. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this so we can paint right onto the canvas. That there. All right. So we're going to be using primarily the flat brush to go over those large spaces here for the background. You have a cup. You put some water in it so that you can rinse off your brushes and dilute the colors if you want to dilute the colors. The more water you use, the lighter the colors will be. The less water you use, the brighter the colors will be. And as you see, we have various shades of each color. Like we have some pinks up here, some light yellow, bright yellow. Then we get into a darker red. So that's all going to be done by using varying amounts of water. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is take the flat brush. We're going to put it in the water. And we're going to go right into the red. Move this out of the way. And I'm going to go ahead and start right in the right corner, bright red, and just bring it all the way over until the paint runs out on the brush. This water's in my way. There we go. So we're going to try to get as close as we can to the original. But I imagine that everyone's painting is going to look a little bit different depending upon the way that you use the brush strokes and the amount of water that you use and the amount of paint that you use. So since it's a little bit lighter on this other side, we're going to use just the water and no more paint. And as you see, it's already becoming a little bit lighter on that side. So we want to make sure we get the entire canvas covered at the top here. And for some of my perfectionists out there, if you need a reference point, we're going to be going down with this red color, I would say about 3 inches down from the top, maybe a little bit more. So remember, bright red in the corner, and then it gets lighter as we go to the left. And to get that effect, we go just water and not paint. I know it appears that I'm going a little bit fast, but you can definitely pace yourselves and go at your own pace. And if it doesn't get light enough with just the water, we can always add white paint. It looks like I'm going to need to add some white. It's not as light as I'd like it on this side. It's a very interesting shading pattern because as we're getting bright on this side, it also fades into the yellow. So you have to use water to lighten that as well. So right where you end that line of red, you can use just red paint to go here and bring that across. And then right underneath that, you want to use just water. And you'll see it's a little bit lighter. I'm not sure how it looks on your camera, but we're going from a darker red pink and then to a lighter shade of pink. And we're doing that just by adding water. All right. All right. So we went down a little bit further and you're going to clean the brush off. And we're going to go right into the yellow and start on the right side, right underneath the pink. And don't be afraid to go into the color right above it because it's going to be blending. Same thing. We're going to go brighter colors to the right, less color, more water to the left. All right, we're getting there. So as you can see, you're having the dark shades of red, pink, and then yellow. I'm gonna bring that down maybe about an inch. Go all the way across. All right. We're going to use just a little bit more water to lighten up this area right underneath the yellow, because it goes right back into a bright yellow, into a lighter shade of yellow right underneath. Make sure you cover the entire canvas, even if it's with a very light shade of water here, yellow. All right. So we have a little bit of yellow here, and then it kind of fades into a really faint orange. And the way that we're going to get that is we're going to use the brush, clean it off, leave a little bit of water on it, and use just a little bit of red and go right into that area that has the light yellow. Yellow and orange, yellow and red make orange. So we're going to try to lighten it up a little bit. Don't be afraid to mix the colors. They all blend together. And right around that shade of orange, you're going to come into a little bit of a darker red. Darker red. You can blend that into the orange by bringing it up a little bit. A little bit of water. Bring that all the way across so that you're covering the blank part of the canvas over here. So you don't want any straight lines where you can see the separation in the paint. So you use water to kind of hide those lines. You want it to look like it's smooth and not rigid lines. The sky doesn't look like that. All right. Going to use a little bit more of the red to go straight across. And that should bring it a little bit past halfway. Well, not quite. We're going to use a little bit of the black to darken up that red. And that will be a little bit halfway. All right, as you can see, you get some different shades of different colors there. And for the last part of the sky, we're going to wash off the brush. I'm going to use a little bit of black. We don't want it to be dark black, so we want to kind of rinse it off in the water a little bit. We want it to be dark, but not completely black. I'm going to make it like a maroon. So you can use the edge of the brush and you can kind of make a straight line across. That'll kind of give you, what do we call that? The horizon line. There we go. And you can bring that back into the red to give it a little bit of a darker red color. Trying to get maroon is what we're going for. Burgundy, maybe. It's a little faint. We want it a little bit darker. So I'm going to go ahead, get a little bit more black, and we're going to go straight across. There we go. Smooth it out on the edges. You don't want to leave any empty spaces. All right, there we go. So that's our horizon line. I think that's it. Maybe bring it up a little bit more. I think it does come up a little bit higher. Add a little bit more black. Bring it up just a little bit higher. There we go. Doesn't have to be a straight line. Kind of give it a little bit of an angle if you want. And then I'll use a little bit darker black to give it the dark straight line across. There we go. I'll dry your brush off. And then we'll make sure that everything is nice and smoothed out before we move on to the water. Remember, we don't want to see any hard lines. Bring that up a little bit more. All right, there we go. And the next color, it looks like we're going to be using a little bit of an orange. So to achieve that, we're going to mix everything right onto the canvas. You can also, if you feel more comfortable, you can mix a shade of orange here on the plate. I'll do both ways. Give it a little bit of red. Rinse your brush off. Give a little bit of yellow. A little bit more yellow. There we go. So you could do that and mix the orange here. Or the way I like to do it is on the canvas. It's easier to, for me, it's easier to spread it that way. So right underneath that black line, the horizon line, we're going to go with just the red. Rinse it off a little bit. And we're going to come straight across with the red, the diluted red, I'd say. Right across. A little bit more water. Make it nice and smooth. All right, so that's the red. I'm going to use a little bit more water to lighten it up, nice and soft, before we add the next color on that section. All right. So to get the orange color we're talking about, we're going to rinse off the brush and we're going to go right into the yellow. Take a little bit off. And we're going to go right over the color we just used, which is the red. So the red and the yellow is going to mix right on the canvas and make an orange color. Have to go over it a few times and make sure it's blending the right way. So if you do it right, you'll have a little bit of orange at the top, and then you'll have a little bit of that pink there. So you'll notice the more water you use, and that's where you get the different shades and different tones in the colors. Yeah, there's a lot of different shades going on in this painting, so I imagine everybody's is gonna look a little bit different. You're probably gonna be putting the colors, different layers. All right. So now we have that pink there. So now we're gonna go into a little bit of a light blue. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rinse the brush off, go right into the blue. Might have to stir it up a little bit. We go right into the blue, right below that pink line. We're looking for light blue. So even if it's dark at this point, you can add water or white paint and we'll lighten it up. And then don't be afraid to bring it back into the other color. I go across with the blue. I would say this section probably is about another 2 inches. It's like this blue. Let me mix it up a little bit. There we go. There we go. So this blue is actually a little bit darker than I need it to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little bit of white and lighten it up because I want the very bottom to be the darker blue color. So I always say there are no mistakes. You can always fix it. Going left to right, nice and smooth. No hard brush strokes. Nice and smooth, left to right. All right, so now I'm gonna rinse the brush off. Well, go get a little bit of white, a little bit of water, rinse a little bit of it off, and we're gonna go right over where everything we just did, just so it's a little bit lighter blue. Because we want the bottom part to be darker than this. In order to do that, we got to make this lighter. Left to right, top to bottom. Again, just water. That's the way we lighten it up, by using just water. Almost getting to the bottom. Again, don't be afraid to bring the colors together. The more they blend together, the smoother it looks. I guess at this point, the only hard line we should probably have is where that black meets the orange. We want that to be a horizon line. All right. So now we're going to come down to the last, I would say about 2 inches from the bottom. Yours might be in a different place, but that's fine. As long as the colors are right, you can kind of mess with where you put them and how far you come down. All right. And now rinse the brush off. And we want to do just the blue by itself. But mix that up a little bit. Make sure it's all nice and mixed. So just the blue without any water. I'm going to start at the bottom, so that's the bluest part. There we go. We're not going to use any water on this one because we want it to be darker than this color. So just the blue. Start at the bottom and bring it all the way up. So this blue is a little light. So we have to go over it a few times to make sure it's definitely darker than the section above it. And I think we're getting there. There we go. So just blend it all together. Smooth it out. Left to right, top to bottom. Or I guess bottom to top in this case. Nice and smooth. You can actually use the brush to help you dry the paint. By drying the brush off and just going over the paint, that'll help dry it and smooth it out at the same time. All right, there we go. So we should have a kind of background that kind of sort of resembles the original painting. If you can see that, we're going to add the other pieces here. I believe we're close. Yeah, I think we're close. There we go. So you can take this time now if you see any sections that need a little bit more paint, a little bit more water, make it darker, make it lighter. It all depends on how you want your painting to look. We definitely want it to be a little bit more dry before we start adding these other elements here, the rocks, the swing, and the tree. So I think we'll just go in order from top to bottom. So before we do that, I'm just going to make sure everything is nice and smooth. And that'll give everything down here a chance to dry before we get into this section. Acrylic paint does dry pretty fast. All right. Okay. So we're going to try to do this very easy, very simple. Rinse off your brush. And we're going to be making the branch. We're just going to do all the elements from top to bottom. So rinse the brush off, dry the brush off, mix up the black paint. This is the first time we're using it. Well, since we did the line. I'm gonna get a little bit of water on it so it spreads a little bit easier, not super wet. And it all depends on where you want to put your tree branch. The original painting is maybe an inch down from the top, but I think this canvas is a little bit bigger, so we're just gonna go down maybe I would say maybe 2 inches from the top, and just use the flat side of the brush. Go ahead and touch the canvas, and just bring it down across and down. We don't want to make it hard. You can go over it again if you want to smooth out the paint. Twist the brush as you go to make it thinner at the end. So that'll be the main branch. And we'll just do it in order. We'll go, I don't know, if we're guesstimating it, that's probably about another inch and a half, maybe. We'll just go flat and just bring it up. There we go. And you can always smooth it out if it's not enough paint or if it's too much paint, however you want it to look. And we're going to go a little bit further. Another branch that shoots off this way. And then we have another one towards the end over here that kind of goes up, over, little curve, and all the way up. And on that branch, we have a section here that does another curve, and it goes up that way. So you can go back and fix it and change how you want it to look. A little bit skinnier. There we go. See how there's some paint that kind of went off that way. I'm going to fill that in and actually turn it up a little bit. There we go. All right, that's going to be the tree branch. Then there are going to be some leaves on there. What you can do so that you can put them where you want to put them, you can use the brush and go into the black and use the brush to make your leaves. Um, each painting will be different, depends on how many you want. I'm not going to make it too difficult. I'm just going to I'll count them out. If you want to follow with me, I'm just going to do 1, 2, I'm just using the tip of the brush. 3, 4, 5, 6, and we'll just make 7 up here at the top. And we're going to go over that with another color. So to have a little bit of a contrast, a little bit more black. Same thing. I don't know, just a random number. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. How about that? There we go. Go over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and we'll put 1 there, 10. So you can kind of fool around with the shapes of the leaves if you want. You could use the skinnier brush if you want. It was just easier for me to use the same brush. Okay, we're going to add a little bit more over here. 3, 4, 5. 1 here. 1 there. And then towards the end. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And how about 1 back here, 1 over there? And you can use the smaller brush to kind of connect them if you want. But we'll go back and do that when we put the leaves on them. All right. So what's next? Let's do the big rock first, and then we'll do the other parts. So the rock, we'll just make that easy. You already have your branch, so we'll just use that as a reference. The rock is going to kind of be underneath here and kind of come down past this one, past the horizon line, and we're going to get into the water probably around here. Doesn't have to be perfect. It's kind of random. The rock is going to be, you know, whatever shape you make it. So let's just say I'm going to start here. I'm just going to draw it. Kind of comes down as a slant. Comes out a little bit. Comes back in. Out. And it lands about right there in the water. Comes across. There you go. And we're going to fill it in because that's a rock. We're just using the regular black, a little bit of water. Use a little bit of water to spread the paint around a little bit more. Painting right over that part of the sunset. Kind of goes out. And what you can do is you can wash the brush off, leave a little bit of black on there, and you can come in and do a little bit of a shade down here because the rock, so it won't just like it's just sticking out of the water. It'll give a little bit of a like a ripple. So that's how you use that color. It's kind of like a gray color. Kind of give the illusion that the rock is kind of sticking out. And you can bring that down a little bit. You can even bring it into the middle a little bit further. Mm. All right, we're just going to move on to the next rock. And we'll put all the little details in at the end. So to make sure you get all the elements in first. So this one is more of like a pointier arrowhead type of a rock. So it's not far. I think mine's a little bit off, but that's okay. Nobody's going to be perfect. So it's a little bit off to the right of that rock. Measurement wise, let's say probably about an inch and a half, I guess. So right at the horizon line, I'm just going to go up and kind of just make a pointed little rock, mountain, whatever you want to call it, whatever shape you want. Once you get it drawn in, just fill it in. It comes right out of that horizon line. We'll put the highlights on it once it dries. All right. And since we're moving from left to right, the next thing will be the swing. I think I am going to use the smaller brush from that since those strings are a little thin. Right into the black paint. I would say right around, because you don't want it to go over the rock. So since mine came over a little bit too far, I'm going to go right where that branch is. Actually, it's easy to do it from the rock. So I'd say start at the horizon line and just try to make a straight line up just far enough from the rock where you have enough room. You can try to have a steady hand, but doesn't have to be perfect. So once I have that there, I know I can now bring that down where it's supposed to go in the painting. And I believe that comes down till about almost at the bottom. There we go. So you want to have enough room for the sun. So you want to make sure you have enough space in between. So I would say I'm going to put mine a little bit past, kind of like where that branch starts. Right there. Straight line. This one I could bring all the way down since I already know that it's far enough apart. So I need some water. Same distance as the other one. You can go in and fill it in later if you want, if it's not dark enough. Just kind of want to put it where it's supposed to go. All right, those are your two strings for the swing. I guess it kind of makes sense on mine since they're by the branch. I guess they can kind of be tied around the branch if you want. If you want to be technical, you're not going to be able to see it anyway. All right. And I'm going to use the flat brush again. That last mountain. So it looks like there's three different shapes, three different sizes. So yeah, like a larger one, maybe a medium one over here, and right at the edge, not all the way at the edge, but kind of sort of close to the edge, right at the horizon line again, a smaller mountain, rock, fill it in, and we'll put the highlights on it after. You can bring it all the way across. If you want to, you can bring that horizon line again just so you know where it is. All right. And we'll bring black paint. The seat of the swing, you kind of want it to be even. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a straight line across at the bottom, a little bit past the strings. There we go. Doesn't have to be perfect. And since it's a silhouette, the rope will kind of be, I guess, going through the wood that would be there. So you just want to do a line down. All right. So now the last piece before we do any highlights, we're going to do the sun. So the way I'm going to do this is you have to make sure the brush is completely clean, dry. And the first thing we're going to do is use the white paint. And everything is kind of in its place, so you kind of know where everything goes. So it's going to be in between those two strings, above the horizon line, and then you can use the brush to kind of go over it a couple of times, smooth the paint out in the center, keep going until you get the right shape you're looking for. All right. Mine's a little lopsided, but that's okay. You can keep going until you fix it. It's about as round as I'm going to get it. Rinse my brush off, dry it off, more water. Going to go into the yellow a little bit, rinse that off a little bit of water. We want it yellow, but not bright yellow. We want to add a little bit of color to it. Same thing. I'm going to start in the center and just kind of go around. See, it was actually too light. I do need more yellow. I guess I'll use yellow and then lighten it up if I need to. Start in the center. I go around. I don't want the whole thing to be yellow, so I'm just going to dry the brush off and then kind of blend it in a little bit. So you have a little bit of yellow, a little bit of white, give it a little bit of color. There we go. Okay, so now we are going to take the small round brush, and again, we're going to start at the top, going into the white. There's going to be three colors on here, so pretty much I'm using white, and then I'm going to do green. So wherever you made those black leaves, you can actually do a little bit more of a leaf shape if you want. You can do the same color, same shape, however you want to do it. But you want to put white there because what we're going to do is we're going to put a little color on it, and the white's going to make it a little bit easier to see. And you don't have to spend too much time on it. Just kind of go over where you made those leaves. It's fine if it turns gray. You just don't want it to be straight jet black. And we're going to come back to this once it dries because we're going to do the other highlights. and then we will be done. All right, so once you have that white up there, we're gonna let it dry a little bit. Still using the brush, same brush. A little bit of white, a little bit of water. We're gonna come in and get the highlights because the sun is here. It's gonna be doing a little bit of reflecting over here on this rock. So just start with a little bit of water. We don't be bright white. Right where the branch starts. All you're doing is just like a single line to give you an idea that there's a highlight there. Come down. This rock will have same thing. It'll be on the right side. A little bit of white. Bring it down. And you can do a little bit on this side as well, even though it really wouldn't be on that side, but just so you can see where the rock is. This one will be on this side since the sun is facing that on the inside. Technically, it would be on the strings as well, so I'm just going to do one on the inside. But instead of a straight line, I'm just going to do a little bit of a stagger. So I'm going to do a little bit here, skip some, going to come here, skip, and then I'll do all the way to the top. Same thing on this side. I'm going to go start at the bottom. Mhm. Technically, there would be some under this tree. This is just optional. You don't have to do this. I'm just making so you can see the tree branch clearly. All right. Get a little definition on this swing seat here, maybe at the bottom. All right. And I noticed that I left out the reflection of the sun on the water, but this painting is everything is in its right place, so it's really easy to pick up. Same brush, white paint, a little bit of water. Start right at the horizon line and just do a nice faint. I had a little bit too much water. Sorry about that. So what you want to do is just come down and just give it a little zigzag brush stroke. Not too wild, just so you can see the white. And you want it to kind of taper. You want it to be a little bit wider at the top. And then it should get a little bit smaller all the way before you get to that seat. And you can go over it a few times if you want. No two are going to be the same. All right, now I kind of messed up a little bit there, so we're going to cover that in black. I might have to dry. It's a little bit gray, but that's okay. All right, we're going to use a little bit of yellow and some water. Kind of mix in the yellow to give it like it's the reflection of the sun. Right over the same lines that you made with the white. So it's the same principle apply. You don't want hard lines. So I'm going to take the flat brush, dry it off, and we're just going to kind of go over those lines, kind of smooth them over a little bit. Kind of blends it into the water. And take a little bit more white, some water, add a little bit more white down here in the water, kind of gives it some waves. And once you put that there, dry the brush off, clean the brush off. You want to blend those in as well. And I believe you should have, oh, no, sorry. Forgot that. We're waiting for those to dry. Last part here, we're going to put a little bit of color in those leaves. We're going to make them green. So all the spots that you had white for your leaves, we're going to put green on top of those. Make it very clear. Those are leaves. You can still leave some of the white there if you want. Just kind of give it a hint of color. All right. And that should be it. And that should be your sunset with the swing. Coleman Events. Let's see here. Should be a little bit similar. And thank you. Coleman Events.